3, 2, 1, go. Welcome to Grounds After Rounds.
With the way SugarWatt is currently structured, it is inaccurate in the ability of a log to capture what an athlete has accomplished. Because basically I'm saying it is creating a false duality that a workout is either RX or scaled. Mm-hmm. That's inaccurate. Mm-hmm. It doesn't provide, it requires way too much figuring out. And if it's the thing that is required for me to then log a workout is to pick whether I was RX or scaled, it's an unnecessary delineation that could be captured in the write-up rather than in, like, it's silly. Because also, if I do Amanda and I log it in SugarWatt, whether I mark it RX or scaled and I do a faster time, it still gives me the right. So if I do Grace, I've done Grace RX every single time. Mm-hmm. And I've done 201, 202, 203, 202 minute, 159, blah, blah, blah. And then I do it scaled at 55 pounds or 45 pounds. And I do it in a minute 30. I put a minute 30, I put scaled. It will still give me the confetti. Yeah. That's a shitty functionality of the app in the context of what RX and scaled means. That needs to change. Because as a logbook, it is inaccurately measuring what I observed as my performance. Right. That was the feedback that I offered them. And they said, we're working on it. And it should be released next year. I don't know what it'll look like, but that it won't be the sole arbitrator of whether I can save the workout. I should be able to save the workout without marking RX or scaled. If I want to mark RX or scaled, I can, but I should be able to mark it as whatever. Sure. And it shouldn't delineate that between people, right? That the men are broken out, RX men, scaled men. The women are broken out, RX women, scaled women. It should remove those because if we're doing our job correctly, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. You and I should be able to compete if we're competing. This isn't the leaderboard. Do you know what I mean? It's not a competition, it's training. And so I should be able to have 18 different versions of the workout, and they're all RX if we do it as we've determined in the moment of figuring out what it is. Mm-hmm. So your time was 18 minutes, your time's 18 minutes. If you want to mark it as RX because it's a benchmark, well then write in the comments, did this one as prescribed because it's Grace at 135. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not offensive. That's just shitty data collection.
Yeah. It's hard because it's like it's been the way since CrossFit started. There's RX and then they put out a workout and says this is.
If you go back to 2002, 2003, they didn't have weights all the time.
But so when they start doing
that, they had some in 2001. Then every now and then they'd have them in 2004. Mm-hmm. Be careful of the way. The way suggests this is the way we do it.
That's what I'm getting at is it. So I'm using the quotes around the word the way, because that's how they post it now is there's weights written and this is the way we've talked about that this is, and by the way, as in this is the way that they put it out there is that to reach the, I guess, stimulus or what is it the end goal, like doing it this and this, if you're as fit as you can be you'll reach the specific stimulus, therefore like you're as fit as you can be, blah blah blah. And then even when the open comes out now, is that the conversation, because now we're talking about the difference between competition and the open. Well, there's RX version, there's a scaled version, there's a foundations version, there's a modified version, there's a no legs, no arms, whatever you want to call it, blind, hear it, seeing, whatever it is. And so like they still they put out all the stuff saying there's still this RX, there is still RX, which is now just an identifier for this version of the workout. And then there's scale, which is just an identifier of this version of the workout. So is it really, there's something wrong with saying there's RX and there's scaled and this is better than this? Or is it there's this version of the workout, there's this version of the workout, there's this version of the workout? And so does maybe that not give just people, I want to try it's a qualifier, not of the value of your effort, but of the, I guess, the way you went about your effort, or the like you have option one, it might as well say option one, option two, option three.
It could, yeah.
So is that like, so is it really that shitty, or is it just the way that we have been perceiving RX and scaled for a long time, and now we're just trying to shift that focus? Because what is RX really, other than, well, the workout's written this way, and so if you did it this way, you get to do it RX. You mark it as RX. If you did it not necessarily as it's written, you mark it as scaled. And so it comes from maybe what we're doing with RX month is we're taking some of that value out of the word RX, or redefining what the meaning of the word RX is. Again, it might as well just say, this is part one, this is option A, this is option B. And so is it that shitty? Is it shitty because RX and scaled is what it's been?
What's
called?
shitty?
Like, is it, well, RX means you're higher up on the leaderboard, scaled means you're lower down.
I just mean, if I have to mark a specific button in the thing, the app that we have chosen to use as our logbook to measure, observe, and repeat, if the single button that I have to select is the thing that creates a duality of it's either or, when in your life has life ever been either or?
I don't know.
And it truly
yeah.
is either or. Never
Sure.
is. It's gray, right? Except dead or alive. But even then, people could argue it's gray, right? I was dead, but then I came back. So am I dead or am I alive? Right? Jon Snow was dead, but then he came back. Was he ever truly alive again, or was he just a little dead inside? You know, I'm kidding. But like,
it's a fun way of taking it.
Dualities are false. They create a necessary conflict for us to feel like I have to pick sides, but there are no sides. Making SugarWOD, making the user of the application have to pick, did I either RX this or scale it, creates a false duality in whether I did the workout as prescribed or I scaled it. And we already ask a lot of an athlete to think about what they're doing. It's an unnecessary obstacle for a thing that's supposed to just be a logbook. Because you could say, when I showed up on February 3rd to do Grace, 30 clean and jerks at 135 pounds, I did it 135 pounds, 30 clean and jerks, and I did it in 5.5 minutes. I came back 4 months later, and that was the right prescription. I was in 5 to 7 minutes of getting it done. I wish I'd been a little bit faster. Like, that's what my coach told me. My coach told me now my prescription, RX, my prescription is to get the stimulus. I want you to be under 5 minutes. Right. I can't do it. My wrists are injured. I'm, whatever. And so my prescription today is 95 pounds. And I did it, and I did it a little bit faster. So do I mark that RX or scaled? Right? In the pursuit of my fitness, because I'm not going to the games tomorrow, I'm not competing. Is that prescribed or scaled? Well, it's prescribed because that's what my doctor, AKA coach, if we're playing with that metaphor, that's what he prescribed for me. Yeah. Right? A doctor is going to give sometimes a patient a certain amount of morphine, other times a patient, another same patient, but maybe they're in a different place in their life. The prescription has the ability to change based on what the athlete needs in order to reach the stimulus. Creating this arbitrary line between prescription and scaled is artificial, and it's unnecessarily artificial. And therefore, that's why I classify it as shitty, because we're talking about training. What you're talking about is the open, which is the first stage in the road to the games. Right. And if you have any illusion of trying to make it to the games, you will not be able to do any of these workouts, but as prescribed by the competition creator. Right. If I go play at the Masters and I go, hey, you guys all shoot from the blue tees, I'm going to drive my cart up here and I'm going to shoot from 5 yards off the green. I'm not competing in the Masters. Right. But if I'm playing with Justin, what's his name? If I'm playing with Tiger Woods, golfer. Yeah. And
heard
we want to,
professional
and
golfer.
we want to have a fun day where we can see, right? And we can like bet on it and we can make it enjoyable, or he can teach me some stuff and it can be right. General physical golfingness, general physical preparedness. I'm going to not tee off from the same place he tees off.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to get some strokes,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm going to be allowed 17 mulligans, maybe even 18.
Right.
He gets none. Right. And so that's where Fritz Froning and I are doing grace and see who's going to win. He's doing it at 255 and I'm doing it at 95.
Mhm.
And that's the prescription for both of us. And then we could say like, haha, I got you, Rich. Right. And that's what makes CrossFit infinitely scalable as a training modality for everyone. SugarWatt as an app has gotten themselves and everybody else as well, we all have locked into this thought that it's, well, I can't do that. Well, I can't do that.
Right.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
You're right. You can't. Well, then why is it written on the board? Because I'm programming. This is not personal training, right? If I was training just you, I wouldn't have written it this way. I would have written it for you, but I'm writing it for 102 people. WooWo is writing it for 10,000. I don't know how many people use their service. CrossFit.com is writing it for 15,000 affiliates across the world. So they got to pick a number that says, all right, for the middle of the bell curve, what we want, it would be this, but we program for the best because we want everybody, all rising tide raises all ships. We want everyone to just kind of push them, scale for everybody else.
Mhm.
And that's the prescription. Locked into, well, I'm not RX, I'm never RX, I can never be RX, is like saying, how much Motrin do you take? How much Motrin do I take?
Mhm.
But if I take the same Motrin as you, that's going to kill my liver. And if you take the same Motrin as me, it doesn't make your pain go away.
Mhm.
We're both jackasses.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, so basically for the last, 10, 15 years, you could argue, which a lot of people have, Jillian Michaels included,
Mhm.
CrossFitters are jackasses.
Mhm.
So welcome to the Jackass Show.
Well, we're all jackasses. We just choose to put our jackassery into different things.
That's where removing the weights moving forward for this month. Like I said, maybe they stay away, maybe they come back. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who cares? Removing the weight says it's light medium, right? Yesterday. Did you do yesterday's?
I did not.
It was, right? Like I thought I was going to be able to go 115. Did it?
Oh, I know.
Right?
Doing it with a PVC pipe, I knew right out of the gate, like,
oh, wow.
if you're going to keep the position, if you're going to keep that position, like,
Yeah.
if you're going to keep that position and keep the bar up for the duration of that complex,
Yeah.
like, you're going to want to go light.
So I've been going off
But
of the description for the competitors, right? The RX gives an out for people. So I'm like, no.
Yeah.
If we want people to feel what the best way this workout could feel, we want 6 rounds.
Yeah.
We want that bar staying up. They want unbroken complexes. Blah, 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 blah. All right, cool. Like that's the qualitative description. So removing the weight, now let's Mickey do it at 75 pounds and feel the same way I felt at 100 pounds. And neither of us feel any sort of, not that he feels guilt or a sense of, but like, right? Like it's in there because we're egotistic narcissists, all of us, like that. He sees a number on that board that, well, it said 115, but I'm not going to go that heavy. And it's like, yeah, no, you don't have to feel that. We both got an awesome workout out of it and felt like nice. Crushed that one. Got 4 rounds.
Is saying light medium still though, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, is that not still though a qualifier? Like, is that still like
it's a qualifier for you? It is still prescriptive. It is still a qualifier. It is 100%, but it's superlative, right? The idea of now it's good, greater, best. It's your superlative. Mm-hmm. If I write 115.75, this is a light medium weight. Not for me, it isn't.
Yeah.
Right? Well,
it's supposed to for you. It's supposed to
right,
be,
like,
but now it's
that's the response by everybody.
Yeah.
Even those that are in the game that know better. I can't do 115. God, why would they say that's a lightweight? I suck. That's mine, right?
Yeah.
Instantly, right? And until it's like, oh, I could do this, right? Fran is a light medium thruster. 95 pounds has never, and I fear will never feel like a light
Feel
medium
like a light
thruster.
medium, no.
I hate Fran, right? Like that. I hate the workout Fran, like, and it will forever be an emotional obstacle hurdle to deal with. So, all right, well, stop it. You do Fran at 65 pounds from now on and unbroken pull-ups, right? Like, all right, pick the thing that is the strength and be like, okay, I could do Fran 65 pounds, unbroken pull-ups under 3 minutes. Nice. Now go 67 pounds. Now go 71 pounds. Now go 75 pounds. And then maybe before I turn 60, I'll be able to do Fran at 95 pounds with unbroken pull-ups. But yeah, exactly. Probably not.
Because what does light mean? Right. I feel like I it's funny. I feel like I say this to my beasts all the time. Because the beasts, I don't put weights up. Exactly.
Well, and that's the funny thing. I noticed you were doing that when Matt would come home and be like, well, it doesn't have any weights. What do you guys do? He said, no, Eric just does it. And so you're already doing it.
I already do it.
And it works so much better.
Yeah. And what's nice is it leaves.
Again, the kids programming always teaches the adults.
It leaves awesome. It leaves so much for them to figure out. It's Soph and I were talking about yesterday too, about how the kids don't need as much hand holding as the adults. I think a lot of it's because they're just like, Coach Eric says I'll do it, like I'll do it. But also it's, I think by having that qualifier, just by saying like, so yesterday's workout was the dumbbell, it was double dumbbell thrusters, farmer's carry, and come back and do 12 burpees. So it's like, you should be able to do all 8 of your thrusters unbroken. You should be able to take those dumbbells, immediately go right in your farmer's carry for 100 meters. You should not have to put that dumbbell down. You might maybe put it down once, but that's where it should be.
Yeah.
And that's it. And so nobody asked me how much weight they should do. The only time people ask me how much weight they should do is they wanted to do 20s, but there were no more 20s.
Gotcha. It's a logistics question, not a skill or, yeah.
And
that's cool.
And so 5 to 7 rounds was the sweet spot, and they all got at least 5. I think a couple went right over 7, but it was money. And I feel like we're in it officially, by the way.
Oh, we're
just in it. And maybe we'll just do like a quick
Well, we'll come back to him now. Welcome. We're in now.
We're in now. Yeah.
We were in 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But because when you asked about the RX, and then we got into the question of what it's serving, but it's actually I would come back to you then why the light medium isn't that still a qualifier?
Yeah.
Baby steps, brother. Baby steps.
Yeah.
Right? Can you imagine if this week we started and there was no weights on there?
Sorry, where I was going with that was, and like I said, it was just me playing devil's advocate because I like saying light medium because the conversation is 115.75 is supposed to be light. Oh, God, that's not light. No. What it means supposed to be is light for you.
Right.
Well, now we've just cut that conversation in half.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I removed the need for us to solve your,
I have 60 minutes in a class.
Yeah.
We have a lot to do. And I just probably saved myself 2 minutes at least from having this conversation with everyone. And so, that's all you said. That
more
was
smiles, right? It lets us all be nicer to each other. Be nicer to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, stop being so sad about what you can't do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, spend the rest of our lives figuring out what we can't do. I know it, right? It's daily existence. I can't fly.
Yeah.
I can't walk through walls. Right? I watch too many Marvel.
You can try it right now.
I watch too many Marvel.
Let's do that one over there. There's a lot of break right here.
Right? Like I want to have immortality. I don't want immortality. If you ever watch any movies about immortality, it's the curse.
Yeah.
Right? You're tortured with living forever.
Logan.
Yeah, it is, right?
I mean, he did eventually die, but he lived for centuries.
Yeah, not until he was already a broken soul.
He saw a lot of people come and go.
And that's your story is a story of loss.
Yeah.
And you don't ever have to. That's why I think in stories about like the Greek gods and stuff that have immortality, they're so disparate from our understanding of humanity, because what makes you human is you're going to die.
Yeah.
Right. That everything comes to an end. That is what makes life so precious.
Yeah.
Not to get too existential.
Yeah.
We already did with the I only know pain because of pleasure, blah blah blah.
Blah 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 blah.
That's in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the light medium is helpful, and it's sort of in animal training or operant conditioning of sentient beings. You call it a bridge.
Mhm.
The whistle in dog or in the clicker or the whistle in dog training
Right.
is a bridge. The reward is the food.
Mhm.
The task or the completion of the task, oftentimes you can't get the reward into their mouth quick enough.
Yeah.
So you associate the bridge to the reward and then the bridge to the action. Yes. Like you'll see people when they're training puppies, they do that. And you're like, what is that person doing? It's a bridge.
Wait.
Yes. So if the dog does something, sit. Yes. As soon as their butt hits the ground.
Oh, they
Yes.
give them the.
And that, yes, because dogs respond to a higher pitch and a thing
Yeah.
is a positive reward because they know when they hear the yes, the treat is coming.
Right.
And then you alternate the reward. It's called a variable reward schedule. So you reward, yes, every now and then,
Yeah.
but not all the time, so that you can go a couple times without rewarding the yes, but the yes still anchors in that they did the right behavior.
Yeah.
Because I can't look at a dog and say, you're a really good dog. I've appreciated how hard you've tried these last couple days. In about 10 days, I'm going to buy you a new food dish, and then we're going to go on vacation together.
Yeah.
They don't understand any of that because they don't speak English
I feel-
or language.
Is it wrong to sit here and think to myself as like toddler training and dog training?
It's the
'Cause
same thing.
Well, it's funny because like
So is people training.
yeah. Well, I forget sometimes that Fiona doesn't really have a concept of time.
No.
And so we would try to do rest time because she doesn't take naps ever. And she does 1 hour of rest time every day. And so we'd be like, Fee, you're gonna go in your room. I'm gonna set you up with books or your puzzles or something. You're just gonna play quietly in your room for an hour. Gives mommy and daddy a chance to do something else or rest ourselves, which never happens. And she used to just constantly come out of her room, constantly come out of her room. And she just didn't. And sometimes it felt like she was testing us, but it was just she just know what an hour is. She assumes she's done.
Yeah.
So then I'd put a clock in her room and I'm like, all right, Fee, when the big hand comes back around to the 1, rest time is over.
Do you guys have the OK to Wake? You know what that
that
is? So they sell clocks that are color coded. And so when it's that, we used to put one in Josh and Matt's room and they could not climb out of their crib
I've
until
heard
it
about
was
that.
green. And the second the clock turned green, they could get out. And one time I was kind of, because their door was open, I could kind of see, they were both standing in their cribs looking at the clock. And then I could see them they were like saying something to each other. Like, I think they were trying to figure out how to make it turn green quicker.
Oh,
But they waited. The second turned green, they're out of the crib and they came running out.
it might be better because within 2 days, Fee figured out, like, she wanted the clock on the floor, right? Like, she wanted it so she could see. It was like, okay, put it on the floor. Within 2 days, she found that she could go to the back and turn the thing. It's like, damn it.
So the OK to Wake, I think it's like screwed in behind. Like she would need a Phillips head screwdriver, and then she needed to go in because you can set it up, and basically it will turn. It's not even a clock. It's just a smiley face, and when it turns green, it's OK to Wake.
Yeah.
So you could get something like that where it's a 0 or a 1, because that's what we all want. Just it's the false duality of it is yes or no. Don't make me make a choice.
Yeah.
And so it's either you come out of your room or not.
Let me come back to and say,
sorry, go ahead.
And let me just say too, like toddler training, like let me put this in, like, I don't mean that as in like I'm gonna give her a treat and be like, good girl.
But it is.
But she totally does need, like, it's one thing I'm learning.
How did you know to work a full day of work?
Because I was told this is when I start and this is when I finish.
But that's not enough to keep you coming back tomorrow. What was the reward schedule on learning how to work?
That money's.
And then what is that? What is money? Money is an artificial reward schedule because what do you get with money?
Stuff.
And then that stuff is an artificial reward schedule because if you wear the right stuff or have the right shoes or have the right stuff, what do you get?
Kids think I'm cool.
You got it. We just want attention.
Yeah.
We operate as humans. Animals operate with attention a little bit, but food. They're driven by food.
Yeah.
We are driven by attention. And so this is positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement.
Yeah.
Negative reinforcement is not punishment.
Right.
This is the hard part. Ty Belanger and Chris Cooper Ty, when we did some of the Ignite stuff, really showed me what this takes if you're going to use it as a technique. Negative reinforcement means you don't pay attention. And so when we'll use Fee coming out of her room as an example. It is going to be so hard the first 2 or 3 times. And you guys probably already do this, where when she comes out of her room, what is she looking for?
Us.
And the second she comes out of her room, what does she get?
Us.
So all you have to do is ignore her.
Lock the door. Oh.
That was good. Well done. Sandwiches. Right? But oh my God, that is so hard. It is so hard.
Yeah.
But you have to ignore, or ignore to the point where it's not okay anymore.
Yeah.
And the punishment has already been established, right? Fee, when you come out of your room, you are not allowed to come out of your room. If you come out of your room, this will be the punishment. So she comes out of her room, you just ignore. She finally does it where it's like, you've come out of your room now, and then, right? And it just, it would take 1, 2, 3 times. And the negative reinforcement is she's looking for the attention, but when she does it right, it's the jackpot, right? Like, oh my God. And that's where, when you get an animal that is far enough along in its training, that actually works, because dogs actually just want attention. They want our attention.
Yeah.
And so when they do the wrong thing, what's the first thing their owner does?
Scolds them.
Gives them attention.
Yeah.
Rather than, right, the butt. If you watch a mama dog training its puppies, it just turns and doesn't pay attention to the puppies. And they learn it a lot faster. She gives attention to the ones that are doing the right thing. It's fascinating to watch. Half the time when you're toddler training, or now we're making the inappropriate association to pet training. Nobody's listening, but
we're trying to create boundaries.
Yeah.
And it's one thing
that's a great way to say it. That's awesome.
Kids want, so if I'm learning, it's kids want our approval all the time. And they want to test our boundaries because they need boundaries. And so
I totally agree with you. Need might be the wrong word. I think as humans, we all need boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because otherwise life is way too
and I mean, it's like she needs to, like you said, I use the word need,
tricky.
but it's
yeah.
But like,
I'm with you.
How does she know where the line is if we don't set up some sort of like, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do? But you can't say this is what you can't do, because that's just a giant carrot that says do the thing.
Because it must mean at this point, and somewhere along the line, right? She is ridiculously smart, right? And you guys are ridiculously smart. And so at some point, you said you can't, and it only took one time. You said you can't do something, but I guarantee you did it, and it looked way more fun than the thing you said she could do.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe it's staying up later. Maybe it's watch this show. Maybe it's whatever. Maybe it's just right. And I would argue it comes back to this, our phones.
Yeah.
You said, Fee, you have to sit over there and do whatever. And I'm sorry, we should stop using your daughter as the example. Yeah. But right, like child, you have to sit over there and do whatever. And then what does she want? She wants our attention, because we all are humans and we want other people's attention. And then what did I give my attention to? This thing. So now clearly this thing must be awesome. And then she wants to play. And you can't, no, you can't.
Yeah.
So I just established, when said authority figure who provides me food and sustenance tells me I can't do something, they are keeping something fun from me. That just got hardwired in.
Which is so like, it's that we said, I don't know how we got down this route.
RX and scaled, and creating a don't feel guilty about the fact you can't do the RX weight. If at childhood we got raised exactly like you were raising your child, which we did, and our parents made the same mistakes we're making, that just triggered deep inside somebody's psychology.
Feel guilty about
I should feel guilty about not being able to be RX. And so we're just trying to unwind that and remove that as a thing.
Yeah.
And it's operant conditioning.
Totally.
So sorry, folks. And the bridge was light, medium weight.
Yeah.
I can do light, medium weight. What does that mean? Well, what does it mean for you? Just empowered, whatever. And sorry, sneakily, it was on purpose and it was deliberate.
Yeah.
We could have just removed the weights immediately, but I think that would have been too far of a jump.
Yeah.
But that's how we got. So little recap, that's how we got there.
That's how we got there.
Yeah.
But it's the we're hard on like screen time. Like she doesn't sit in front of a TV. She doesn't sit in front of a device, blah, 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 blah. And it's, so like, then it was like, well, she gets to do like an hour of Sesame Street or Puffin Rock or something. And that would be like okay, she gets a little TV time in the afternoon. But it was this hard and fast, like, you watch it when we say you watch it when we say you got to watch it at this time. And it would be, some days would be days. We would go days without sitting in front of a TV. Now, Meg and I wouldn't either. It wouldn't be like we're sitting and watch TV like
you can't watch this.
Else.
Don't
like,
watch this.
Like we're not watching it either.
Yeah.
But we would, like, at the end of the night, like maybe we're sitting in bed together and we turn on the iPad and like we watch, Friends or something, because it's just like, this is our right. But Fee would wake up and she'd see that we're on it, or again throughout the day she may see that we're on this phone. And so that's totally what it is.
It's
like,
inadvertent.
It's totally what it is. We said, you get this thing a little bit every once in a while, and that's it. And we're such we're such great parents because we're not exposing her to like the blue light, the screens, and the stimulation, and blah blah blah. But now it's like when there's especially now, like with this one thing she does once a week, Tinkergarten, which is it's basically just like 30 minutes of preschool.
Yeah.
But she sits in front of a screen for 30 minutes, right? And then when it's done, she's like, okay, can we watch so-and-so now? I'm like, no, Fee, like this was just for the class, but she doesn't understand that.
Right.
But the thing's out in front of her now. She's like,
right.
It's like, so it's,
TV Kraken.
So it's one of those like, God, did we do the right thing? Did we do the wrong thing? Is there some in between? There can't be an in between, because I need a 0 and a 1. I need Duality.
Did I do it right or wrong? Just tell me I did it right.
Oh man. But
don't worry, she'll tell her therapist.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway.
But that right, like, and the funny thing is, we're not dogs. We're not primate. I mean, we are primates, but we're not chimpanzees or whatever. Like we have.
I don't get along with chimpanzees. We've gone over this.
We have a greater depth, at least supposedly. We have a greater depth of consciousness and awareness.
Yeah.
But we are still driven by those unconscious, deep-seated emotional responses.
Yeah.
And again, SugarWOD created an amazing app with functionality that created this community. And this started all because I saw the Woo-Wows using Mighty Networks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if something like that is a pivot to where you could run and publish a similar functionality that SugarWOD has done, but I doubt it, because they've cracked the code on the community interaction, the fist bumping, the comments. They added the GIFs. It's very easy to program. It's got a marketplace. Like it's got everything. So if that RX and scaled button never gets fixed, oh well, right? Like we have an opportunity to then do better in-person conversations and take on the challenge and retrain all of our perspectives on this thing. That then comes back to, which I don't think it was in it, if I'm saying something, doing something, writing something, which somebody comes to me and says, hey, this is offensive. Okay, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Would you mind explaining to me, how is it offensive?
Yeah.
What a great opportunity to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think Andy would mind me mentioning this. It just happened, and he's a very strong and brave man. One of the strongest and bravest and best looking. Though we don't comment on people's physical attributes anymore, just their emotional attributes. Though I think he'd appreciate me.
That could be for the Patreon part. We'll save all the physical stuff.
Have you seen Have you seen these Kevin James?
Hit the sound guy?
Oh yes, but he's got a whole. So that's one series that he's doing.
Okay, I haven't seen.
He also has these like little shorts that he does, like little kind of like parodies of odd things. Then he has another series which are just straight up like fantasies. Mm-hmm. So the fantasy would be like Pizza Royale. It's a 50-second fight scene between him about to eat the last piece of pizza and a woman walks in, and they go into straight kung fu, like the Bourne Identity, like using the box to thing, and he like ends up eating the pizza and she's just disgusted and walks out. It's absolutely hilarious. Yeah. But the one I found was Misinterpreted Wave, or Misinterpreted Waves, or Missed Waves, or something. So he's walking to his car and a guy like does this and he goes, hey, what's up, bro? And he's waving to somebody behind him. And it just goes right into this like piano. And it's this whole series of like Kevin James doubting himself. He's like walking by a train, which gets a little dark. Like, was he going to commit suicide? Like there's a little bit like but this is the talent of Kevin James, is he takes it just far enough, like he's in his room in his house and the lights are down, and then he's like under his blanket and won't come out, and he's just down, and now he's back to his car, and he's like getting in his car, and the guy who did the original wave is now on his cell phone, and he kind of gives him and Kevin James are kind of looking at each other, and the guy on the phone looks at him and goes, and this music comes like, and Kevin James goes, hey, and he gets in his car, and he's just right, like, and so I texted Andy.
The world is good again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I texted Andy. I said, validation. That's what it's all about. And Andy texted me back, like, I don't know where it landed with him or whatever, but he kind of like called out well, I mean, what about that? Like, what if that was your real existence? Like, what if really you didn't feel like you were getting validated in the world, whatever. And it was, I mean, Andy was right. Like, there's that whole other reading of this. Like, I guess it's kind of funny, but like, for a lot of people, that's not funny.
Right.
And they do feel isolated and alone. And he goes, but if that was too melancholy and not what you were looking for, just disregard all that. Read that I said, ha ha ha, so funny. Kevin James is a genius.
Yeah.
And I texted him back and I said, you're right, dude. There are multiple levels in that. I think wherever that landed for you, whatever it is, bottom line, be nicer to each other. Yeah. Right? Like, if I'm going to take anything, Kevin James, hilarious, like whatever, even if I showed that for somebody that landed really hard on him, like great, not great, but okay, sure. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hit it that way, but hey, what do you need? Let me take this as an opportunity just to be nicer.
Sure.
World will be a better place. Like, just be nicer to each other.
Yeah.
That's what I think the other conversation about, if somebody comes to me and says like, hey, what you're doing is offensive. Like, oh, okay. To you, am I missing something? Am I using the wrong words? Like expand. I thank you for bringing that to my attention. That makes me feel really uncomfortable and hurt. And I don't say like, great, thanks for telling me. Like, I don't feel awesome when somebody says that, which I think is a good sign. I'm not a megalomaniac, psychopath.
Right.
But as you said, well, hold on. What do you mean by offensive? Like, is it just because it's a miscommunication? Am I using the wrong words? Like, what exactly am I to take from that? But I'm always willing to have the conversation. And if it means I've got to change something so that I'm nicer to not just this one person, but to as many people as I can be. Well, last time I checked, we're in the business of making people feel better about themselves, feel physically better, be more healthy.
Yeah.
Well, then, that includes that emotional wellness. And so that would be my answer back.
Yeah.
But I think, does that mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like, right, Kevin James's video is meant to be nothing but funny.
Yeah.
But if it offends somebody, I guarantee you he would be willing to have the conversation, and he would say, I hear you. I also think you might be taking this too seriously. Mm-hmm. It's a couple dudes waving at each other, and this is comedy. Comedy is intended to push a little bit so that we can kind of examine the absurdity of what we're talking about. Yeah. But not meant to be offensive.
It's not meant to devalue something. It's meant to,
good word.
I think that's
well done. Yeah.
I think
good job.
You hear, actually, I think these days too, you're hearing comics talk about it a lot, where it's like, this is just meant to be, it's meant to, like you said, just kind of laugh at some of the absurdity, not to devalue it, because the things that they talk about are serious, but it's also like, you don't have to take everything so seriously. It's okay to let it go. It's okay to laugh at yourself. It's okay to laugh at a situation occasionally, because at the end of the day, nobody's in that context. He's not saying, look at how weak and sad, depressed people are. They're so fragile.
Exactly. He was saying, I'm fragile.
Yeah.
And that missed wave was enough. And then he celebrates the guy, because there's that moment of awkward where the guy on the cell phone could have just been like, loser, what are you looking at? But what he did was, hey, here's a human being, look at me. And he waved.
You know what's funny about that too is that some people may be like, that's really like, that hits home, like that kind of hurts. And there's people like you and me that maybe it doesn't hit home, but we still totally relate to that. Be like, oh my God, I've totally felt like that. Like, I went to do the wave to like,
oh. And then
dumb.
What James does is he takes it 2 steps further.
Yeah.
Where I felt a little bit like, oh God, I'm an ass. But he takes it, and that's what makes it absurd and funny.
Yeah.
But what makes it, I think, heartfelt and worthwhile is he brings it back, and it's a happy ending.
Yeah.
That it is validated. He got that character got validated out of the humanity of the other character, seeing him as a person and him seeing himself as a person. So it is ridiculously funny, but it's also really sweet. And I would actually argue the text back and forth with my friend was the best part, because I had an excuse to connect with him again. And so that was the actual real win for me.
Yeah.
All the way back, looping it back to the RX and the scaled, the feeling of inadequacy that RX and scaled innately creates within athletes is legit. And it is 100% it's an unintended consequence of a thing that I think had good intention and still serves a purpose. I would offer to athletes that is such a great obstacle for them, which I don't think we have any. I think we have people who are willing to say like, oh, I'm willing to talk about this, but also feel that little bit like Kelly. I did Kelly 3 years ago, 5 rounds, 400-meter run, 30 box jumps, 30 wall balls. I did it RX and I did it in 23 minutes, and I can't even do 2 effing rounds like that again. I feel a sense of inferiority. I feel a sense of loss. I feel like a loser. I feel like whatever, blah, blah, blah. I put all this weight on, fill in the blank. My knees hurt, da, 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 da. It's all legit. But I also feel comfortability in saying, hey, man, you got to let that go.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're here. You had the courage to show up.
You know, it's funny that you bring this up, because when I was trying to think of things we could talk about today, and it just kind of like spurred my creative juices when I looked at 9:30 and I saw Linda, I saw TJ, I saw Steph, who have all taken like significant amount of times off for one reason or the other, and still make their way back. And I'm sure every single one of them have that like slight inferiority, like
maybe I'll
it's
jump the
not
gun.
where I was.
Linda and TJ are my gratitudes. That class as a whole.
Yeah.
Jen, Steph Grady, Genevieve Poulos, Steph Grady, Lisa, Victor, I can never pronounce her name. Her last name, Lisa, Linda, and TJ.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, like conglomerate gratitude. But Linda and TJ, because DJ came in first day back, and she's super happy, and everyone's saying. But she dropped like, I've taken some time off. And Linda, without missing a beat, goes, yeah, that's the story of my CrossFit existence, right? She was awesome. De-escalated the whole thing, and the class went incredibly.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Linda Mundy,
Yeah.
you're a flipping ninja.
Yeah.
Like, she was awesome.
Yeah.
And so that, like, it was just in the moment, like I was like, you're the freaking best.
Yeah, she makes me laugh because she's totally her sense of humor. Sometimes she does that. It's that self-deprecating humor that it's just like, look, we all. I've done it too.
But it landed. But the timing of it, and the heart, the authenticity of it, and I mean, it was legit, and you could feel the connection between everybody just enriching right there. And it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, so I guess that's the analogy to the Kevin James video is, I think everybody can feel a sense of solitude in that the existence of a thing, RX and scaled, has at one point or another in all of us created this unnecessary sense of inadequacy.
Yeah.
For some, I think that triggers deeper seated, rooted, whatever feelings of like, I'm not enough. And that might be enough to push them away. And in that spirit, I think it's something we can walk away from as a primary guider of how we prescribe a workout. But I would also offer, but it does serve a useful task of creating boundaries or creating context for observable, measurable, repeatable. So I also feel a sense of like, okay, if it's creating that great of an obstacle for you, it's not about the RX and scaled anymore. that's something you might want to look at personally
Yeah.
or have a conversation with one of us, because it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
You don't even ever need to do what is written on the board again, as long as you show up. Nicole did not do clean and jerks this
Right.
morning. She did something completely different, because yesterday she said, I want to come to the workout, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But I want to come. Will you write something else for me? And I did. And it was awesome. And it was so much freaking fun.
Yeah.
And that, right, she still went 5-3-1, which is something totally different.
Something totally different.
And
Yeah.
right, I would argue she still did load bearing. She still got cardiovascular respiratory endurance work. She still got coordination, agility, balance work.
Yeah.
But she got to do it next to some of her most favorite people.
Is she slightly fitter than when she walked in the door?
You got it. And so that's where, but that's not like that happened yesterday.
Right.
That's a multi-year journey that she took the effort of working through and got herself to. And me too, as her coach, like 3-4 years ago, I'm pissed. Right? I'm like, come on, are you kidding me?
Just do
you
it.
can do it. Stop being such a baby.
Jeez.
Right? Like, I may even have said those things out loud to people from time to time. Right?
You have. You did want that.
So we all have a process and a journey of getting better at being nicer to each other for the purpose of making us better at just being people. And this is one component of it. That's, I think, the better conversation of this RX and Scaled that is coming out of it is it serves a purpose. It's not going away, right? I would love to remove all the things in the world that make us uncomfortable, but I would argue I just removed all the things in the world that make the world worth living in, right? Like, you're supposed to be offended from time to time.
Yeah.
If you weren't, you wouldn't have diversity. You're supposed to feel pain from time to time. If you didn't, you're dead, right? Like that.
It's true.
These things serve a purpose. You're supposed to be challenged by things you don't understand or that scare you. And if that takes the form of something written in a number on a board at the gym that you go to, okay, at least it's in a place where you know and have a history that these people like you like them, they trust you, you trust them, you all have each other's best interest in mind. Maybe this is just a miscommunication, and let's have a conversation to work through it.
Yeah.
And if that got facilitated because of what I wrote on the board, hey, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Sometimes for me personally, when I see things that it's like, and then so it'll be one of those, I don't know about that, but it's also sometimes for me, it's just better to like, yeah, just let it go. It's, 'cause sometimes I think that's another side of it too. It's like, is there something really bugging me about this? How much is it bugging me?
Yeah.
Is it worth doing something about? Or do I just need to, you know what? I got bigger things on my plate to worry about. Let it go.
Well,
sometimes I think that's
yeah. It what you're describing, it reminds me of about 6 months ago, I had to take the wheels off of all of my suitcases. And I'll tell you what, I've been dealing with so much emotional baggage. It is, she's like, I did there.
I did.
It's emotional baggage. You deal, right? Like, put it down, let it go.
It's so
like
true.
Nobody cares. I care. I do. I care. You're the worst.
Oh, man.
What's
funny, like
what's
emotional.
That from? You're the worst.
I've seen it in so many things.
It's a movie or something. There's a line. You did that yesterday. I was like, that was funny.
I was thinking, there's Parks and Rec. Whenever there's one from Parks and Rec when John Ralphio's sister, he introduced her sister. And he's like, "This is my sister, Mona Lisa, blah, 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 blah. She's the worst."
It's not
like,
that. It's something. It'll come
Yeah.
to me. But you just described all of that is yours.
Yeah.
You can totally put it down.
Yeah.
But I also appreciate all of that is heavy. And it's like, okay. And so,
Speaking of heavy, I feel like I've needed going on diet lately. But I just have too much on my plate.
well done. Boom. That was a good comeback. Balls in my court. It's like rope climbs. It's like box jumps, right? Short of You just can't jump that high.
Mhm.
Box jumps are emotional baggage because either you hit your shin in the past or you saw somebody hit your shin in the past, or right. Like dolphins won't jump from a place where they can't see on the other side of it.
Oh.
That they innately won't, they will not do a box jump. So the habit, or
Dolphins won't do box jumps.
they won't do box jumps. But the funny thing is, to beach a dolphin into the boat for the marine mammal system, that task, that behavior is going against what I just described.
Mhm.
So it is the number one must do everyday behavior that you must do with the system. See how I just changed them from a dolphin to a system? Because
Right.
they're not animals anymore. They're a weapon system. Mark
Mhm.
4, Mark 7, Mark 5, Mark 6.
You name them Mark?
They all they're all named Mark and K. They have a system designation based on the skills that they can do.
Yeah.
The beaching is the number one for Mark 6 marine mammal system, which are the go find and mark intruder system.
Right.
That's the one I worked with. You have to beach them because after they mark a target, they different mark, M-A-R-K mark a target. They have to be able to come back to the boat, trigger or initiate that they've marked with the tennis ball, that they've marked the target, and then get into the boat so the boat can get out, so security forces can come in and neutralize the now marked target, aka enemy swimmer. So the dolphin doesn't kill the swimmer. A lot of people think that, and I don't think that's classified. That's not classified. It was just in an article. They mark the target for apprehension, and so that behavior has to be done every day.
Mhm.
The dolphins that I worked with in Bahrain stopped beaching. They were so broken because they had been doing things that were so far out of their scope of responsibility in their job in Bahrain for so long in hot water, and we had like isolated them, and it was the most miserable. But the trainers were like, we can get them up. They had tricks basically to like corral the animal, and at that point the trick stopped working. That was the point where this system is now degraded, and I had a degradation process that I could write, where basically in the surface warfare you write a CAS report, a casualty report, based on your operational capability. CASREP 2, CASREP 3, CASREP 4. CASREP 4 means you can't get underway. That gets like immediate response. I CASREP'd the dolphins because they couldn't perform anymore.
They perform.
Yeah, I actually, and I never ended up sending it, but that was, I had to write back home to my home command, write email, whatever, call on the phone. I'd be like, hey, sir, these dolphins won't work. And the tech rep is telling me that they are not going to certify that they can go out on patrol anymore because there's no guarantee that in open water, they'll be able to get them back into the boat. Yeah. To me, that feels like if I was a damage control assistant on a ship somewhere and my generator broke, and that generator is what powered this system, I'm going to CASREP the generator because it now no longer operationally supports a necessary mission requirement. Yeah. This dolphin is now the system that is broken that doesn't support our necessary mission requirement. All that to say, the behavior that you're describing is being constantly cemented over and over again of, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm not good enough. Rather than these behaviors. Yeah. And I would offer that everything we do in here is a daily check. Like you need to, have I been consistent? Have I been courageous? Have I been curious? And if you're always like, well, I can't do that. Well, I can't do that. You're degrading. You're degrading in your behavior. Mm-hmm. Well, then of course I am. I'm degrading. Ah, shit. I just helped. Right. So our job is to be, right. is to be more supportive of offering that feedback of, well, that's interesting. What's making you say that you can't do that? Yeah. Well, last time I jumped on a box, I hit my shins. Ah, good point. What if we jump on a lower plate? Well, I can't jump. Well, hold on. You said you couldn't jump on a box. Can you jump over that line? Yeah. Well, let's do that today. Right? Like there, now it's like, that's your prescription. And now it's you are a jumper who jumps on this height. Yeah. Now you're a jumper who jumps on this height. Yeah. Now you're a jumper who jumps on a box.
jump 1, jump 2, jump 3.
You got it.
Which going back yesterday, I think it's funny with the over unders. People that jump on 20-inch and 24-inch boxes all the time. Something about jumping over that PVC. People are like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's actually easier. It's actually easier.
It's thinner and you don't have to jump. I mean, you have to jump higher than the box to get on top of the box.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to just jump over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have to like.
Oh, I hear them. I felt it too. I usually jump
like,
over the 20 because I can get down lower.
Yeah.
I'm so tired.
That's
After
like
the warm-up
set. I was like, look, you can jump higher, which will make it be easier to go under, or you can jump lower, but it's gonna be harder to get under. And so it's
getting under was harder yesterday than going higher.
Yeah.
So I went with the 24
because
those lunges just, I mean, Alex and I were joking. I was like, every time I went under the PVC, that's why I was like, I'm on my hands and knees. Okay, jump over.
Yeah, those anyway, that was cool. It was funny in last bit, I think it was Soph was saying it's funny watching she said it's funny watching adults do this thing that just seems so silly. But they do it, right? Like it's watching grown adults do this thing. She goes, if someone that didn't do CrossFit walked in right now and saw this, they're like, what are these idiots doing? But then
they're paying me to make them do it.
But then she went into saying like, but like, you know, like laying down, standing up, crawling underneath something, like, you know, it's
a critical life skill.
Yeah. Like, and you know, her mom was right in front of her doing it. I was like, yeah. How old's your mom? She's like almost 60. I was like, and she keeps this up. She's gonna be doing it until she's 70, until she's doing 80. She's gonna be able to get on the ground and stand up and crawl over something if she needs to. So anyway, that was cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's humorous, not humorous. Interesting that, you know,
that's your humorous.
Oh, that's why this is called the funny bone. I just thought because it makes me feel funny inside.
It's a different
you couldn't resist. That was hilarious. You're like, oh God, I shouldn't say this, but I gotta say it. Why would you do that? Why would you give me that?
Why would you give that dog a bone?
That it was kind of the lull. We didn't have anything to talk about because, you know, we never have anything to talk about. We never figure out. But it's the idea of the RX and the scaled RX challenge month. It does just keep delivering because it keeps uncovering so many other there's so many other things we think are true. And when we dig deep enough, not even deep, we don't even dig that deep. You just peel a little layer like, oh, well, this is bullshit. Oh, well, why do I have to do today's workout? Why do I have to do squat cleans and split jerks? Because that's what we're saying. That's it. Like, in the end, really, it's just a sneaky way to get us to heavy singles. And if you want to lift the heaviest weight possible, the majority of us need or should do a squat clean because you can get on the bar faster and you can lift more weight. And you should do a split jerk because you can get on the bar faster and you can lift more weight. That's all. And the 5 and the 3 are to dial in the mechanics and then add weight, test the mechanics. There you go. Bing, bang, boom. It hurts to get into the squat for some people. No problem. Guess what? You do a split clean. You can do a push jerk, right? Like, nowhere does it say you have to do this other than on that screen that we put up in the gym. That's just the prescription.
Which would always ruin my like demo of like, hey, look, it's just a whiteboard. You can erase it. Like,
you could just turn it off.
You can just turn it off.
There you go. Technology. It's always a workaround. But it uncovers so many things that we think are hard and fast truths. There isn't any. I would offer the only truth that I'm coming to that keeps delivering is the one my friend Scott Gobar told me. You can't fake showing up. I can dial a phone. I can get on Zoom. I saw it yesterday with one of our students that we teach. I thought we'd be like, well, Zoom, you can't fake being on the call. Like, you got to be on the call. Your camera's on, your phone's on. That MFer was on 2 calls. And we're in the middle of talking to him and he's kind of nodding his head and Joan sees him and is like, hey, well, so-and-so is reacting. Like, what do you have to say? And he types in the chat, oh, no, sorry, on another call with the battalion officer. No. And I told her afterwards, I was like, this is what happens with me and the boys, right? Like, there comes a point sometimes when they do things and Nicole has done a good job of like, just don't do anything, because you have no intermediate, and it just goes right into nuclear rage. Today's disgust or yesterday's disgust and rage character, right?
Oh yeah.
For like, it's not important. It's my own baggage that's still in there. That's what it felt like. And so I just said nothing.
Yeah.
But I've come to it, like, I need to follow up with the kid and be like, that's unacceptable, because if it was in person, he wouldn't be able to have gone to both meetings.
Yep.
So this is what I mean. And this is what our athletes offer us, is them. Yeah. They show up. Yeah. They can't fake that. Yeah. And in the end, like, that's the only thing that matters, is that they are physically here and they've done the hard part already by showing up. Our job is to keep figuring out ways to better support not making other things harder than they have to be until it's hard, right? Lifting heavy weights should be hard. It should be scary. It should be challenging. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. Recording it or it making you feel like lesser of a person, that's not necessary. No. Now, if that's a challenge, right? Like, I like to put myself in positions where I do challenge that part of me, because that's something I'm personally working on, is where I see my narrative, the negative narrative, this negative self-talk show up. And then I'm like, it didn't need, right? But that's my choice. Yeah. I don't need to impose that on other people. Yeah. Anyway.
Cool. Good stuff.
It is good stuff.
That rolled nicely today.
What was your gratitude?
God, I have so many. I haven't been here in 2 weeks. Gosh, I mean, WrestleMania happened. That was great. I will say it's funny. Like, it kind of sounds like a gratitude for myself. But I think it's also just the way things work out nicely and make me feel good about myself. Validation. But last Wednesday, the reason I'm here is Meg had she and her group or whatever with work were leading this training for public affairs officers at VA hospitals in the region, blah, 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 blah. So Meg was like, so it was like, I need you to take Fee to school. I need you to take Everett with you, because that 10 to 12 is when she is presenting. So she's like, she absolutely can't like have Everett around. She can't have noise. So she's like, why don't you just like drop off Fee at school, and then like might be like Everett might fall asleep. Like if you just drive around, like I don't care if you drive around for an hour, just as long as he sleeps, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, maybe I'll take him for a walk. Like, well, so I dropped Fee off at school. I had him in one of these carriers that was too small that I couldn't like, goes around your back, and I don't know. Anyway, so I was like, I'm just gonna go for a walk. And I ended up walking like 2.5 miles around downtown with Everett. He slept the entire time. And then by the time we got back to her school, he woke up and he was just chilling, and we just kind of chilled in the car until Fee was done, changed his diaper, picked up Fee. She had going into that day, I was terrified, because like, what if he gets hungry? What if he's having like, what if he loses his mind? Like, what if he just needs Megan? Like, what if he needs to eat? What if I'm with him and I can't do anything? and even as I like went for that walk, cause like I'm all the way over here, I'm downtown at City Dock, and my car's over here in Eastport.
She used to coach with Thee.
Right.
Why is it different? What makes him different?
I think I was just as terrified with Fee at the time, but it's like, I just reversed it. So in my mind, so the fact that like it just went really well. And I felt, cause like, you know what, like I can do this.
You're really good at it.
Like I can do this. I can go for a walk with
You've raised Fiona.
What's also looked at this too is like, this is my official, like I'm training for Murph now, because I just did like 2 miles with a 20-pound vest on.
I think he weighs more than 20 pounds.
He gets heavy fast. I'm holding him like
solid dude.
Like Meg makes it look so effortless when she's holding him.
She's wicked. Like, she's stronger than you. Yeah. We know this. She's stronger than me. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Anyway, it was just I don't know. Like that was a win that I think I needed with the little ones.
Good.
Anyway.
Good. Heck yeah, man.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. Well, the journey continues.
That it does.
As I ended one of the blogs with the road goes on forever and the party never ends. It's a Robert Earl Keen song, and Shelley recognized it immediately and was like, yeah.
There you go.
One of my favorites. My roommate used to listen to that song when Academy roommate over and over and over, but it's a good song.
Yeah.
So road goes on forever. Party never ends.
Millions of Peaches. That's another song. That's another good song.
I could go for some peaches. I could go for some peach pie. Anybody got any peach pie? I'll go for that.
No.
All right. We will see you
On the creek.